Alrighty, hello and welcome to Independent Podcast Service. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we are discussing the episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker, Primal Scream. This episode originally aired January 17th, 1975. Let us start off with the number one song in America this week, Dave. So it's
Shoot.
last week was Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by Elton John. It was a cover. I'll give you a hint, it is not the same song.
Okay, that makes it easy, but also a case of not my forte with musical dunkings from that. But around that time, and with that one being there, yeah, nothing else is immediately coming to mind of what would have been super popular at the start of the year or what would have managed the number one.
So here's a fun little thing. This song was actually used in a couple of episodes of Angel.
Mildly interesting, but also mildly concerning. Which episodes? But more so a case of which song.
It's Mandy by Barry Manilow.
Okay, the name rings a bell as well as the artist, but I may have it mixed up with about 3,527 other songs.
You remember there's a couple of times where Angel has to like get Lauren to read him, and he always sings the same song.
Ah, yes, that's
He
true.
always sings Mandy by Barry Manilow,
Mhm.
which that's kind of fun. Alrighty. Number one film at the box office. So last week was The Godfather Part 2. It is no longer the top spot.
On the one case, it's not super surprising, but on the other case, so sad.
Yes. So
Hmm.
what would take The Godfather Part 2 off the top spot of the box office?
Hmm. Because it would have to be something, but then there's also the concern of it. It's probably absolutely nothing. But as it sits, I have no idea.
Okay, it's a
Uh,
movie called The Towering Inferno. Are you familiar with this?
yeah, not even a clue. Like, supposedly the one thing that comes to mind is a disaster movie, but even then, it might just be sort of fancy named to more of a mystery and or spy thriller title.
No, it is a disaster movie. Basically, like there's this like really tall building, and then a fire starts on it, and people have to get out. That's basically more or less the movie.
Oh, oh shoot, because that's kind of one of the pillars of disaster movies. In cases of, oh God, here comes this other movie that's doing the exact same premise, only in the modern times now.
Yeah. Well, there's only so many disasters you can really do.
So very true, but also kind of a case of, did they kind of add something interesting to it, or kind of a case of, haha, they just want to make a quick buck?
Well, this is true. Alrighty, so let us move on to the episode Primal Scream. Alrighty. So, curses. No, curses. That's better. Alrighty. So, in this episode, an Arctic oil drilling expedition unearths some strange organic matter, cells which begin to spontaneously multiply. When the cooling unit in their storage facility fails, the cells grow into a violent and deadly life form, a murderous ape man. Kolchak finds the feature story he's been planning on writing about the murders blocked by the authorities at every turn, and it seems that pressure from the large corporation which sponsored the drilling is threatening to quash the truth about the murders. So, what did you think of this episode, Dave? Because I have thoughts on it.
Okay. Because as it is, it was fairly interesting. Though I suppose the biggest thought that I had for it was near the end of the episode, or with how many ideas they were supposedly working with, it kind of got pulled in a lot of different directions. Where there usually is part of the episode with Kolchak having his typical batter with the newsroom, the typical members and whatnot, but then going out in the field and speaking with the particular suspects or victims of all the incidences that happened. But I especially found with this one that things either pulled in strange directions or had tougher time keeping together. I wouldn't have been surprised if this was one of the episodes that they had to either cut a decent amount of stuff out of, or they were having an issue with trying to sort everything together to actually have it flow decently. I don't know, it might just be my own thoughts. But on the whole, there was always the interesting one or two parts with it, especially with the side plot. Sadly, the name escapes me, but his fellow news person that uh, catches up with the story and always conflicts with Kolchak, threatens to tow his vehicle if he parks in his spot, but he managed to flip the script on and have his vehicle towed at the end. And
Yeah, no, I think there's some stuff in it that's really good. I think my biggest issue is like it never kind of gets out of first gear.
maybe that might have been it. Yeah. That the case of he was sort of looking into it. And also a case of Kolchak always seems to have an issue with the police in some sort of case, but especially with this episode, man, he could have been charged with a decent amount of stuff that he had there.
I think my biggest problem is like it's a good idea for an episode, but like it never really gets going. It just kind
Yeah.
of
So true.
it just kind of meanders through and then ends. Like it and I think part of that is also because like granted like this is like a 70s like show and obviously there's limitations on like the special effects, but like the costume for the ape man doesn't look very good. Like you can tell they're like, oh, we can't really show much of this because it looks crap.
Mm. And I think the other particular idea is kind of the premise of the episode, where this company is working to kind of keep all this stuff under wraps with help of the police and whatnot. So Kolchak is kind of having a bit of a hard time getting a foothold of trying to find the information he needs.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think the idea of like them having gone to the Arctic and like brought back this mysterious creature and all that kind of stuff, like that's really interesting. And the idea of like the company covering it up, I'm totally down for that. It's just it never seems to really get anywhere.
Hmm. And then, of course, especially at the end, there's still at least the decent enough suspense of him searching around, trying to discover the monster and whatnot. But especially with how he encounters it, and especially with this one, how close he kind of came to death with it, that even with the police kind of coming, the ape being taken away and whatnot, eh, on certain cases it was understandable for how the story to go, but it maybe left a little bit in the back of my brain to be desired for the story.
I think it's a fine episode, and it's fun seeing Jamie Farr in this. I don't know if you know who that
Yeah.
is. He's the like high school. I think he's a biology teacher.
Oh my god, yes, that one particular scene. That was marvelous. Again, always Kolchak taking different methods or routes to try and find the information he's looking for. And oh my god, the typical school teacher of, oh man, do you want to see prehistoric life? Just stay here a couple more minutes. Bell rings and the students start chattering before coming in. It's like, nope, I'm out of here.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff, and I'm always happy to see Jamie Farr and stuff. So that's nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, this was a fine episode. I wouldn't go out of my like if somebody was like, I want to watch 3 episodes of the series. This wouldn't be on like my oh you have to see it list.
No, that's understandable. I believe you mentioned last week, though, that this particular episode had some grievances last time you watched it. Were they kind of resolved, or did you kind of understand your thoughts back then?
I've just never really liked this episode. Like I've always just
Mm.
thought it was kind of like, oh, there's kind of nothing here.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like, this is one of those where, like, again, I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it if I wasn't watching every episode.
Mm-hmm.
There are much better ones around it that I would rather go to.
Hmm.
Speaking of better episodes,
Ooh, what have we got in store?
next week is a little episode called The Trevi Collection.
Hmm.
Oh, Dave, you're in for a treat. We're gonna have a witch, and it's gonna take place in the world of high fashion.
On some cases, I'm not too surprised, but I also question with how decent enough the trope is nowadays, what they're gonna do with it in the 70s, and especially with that kind of premise.
Yeah, so I remember this being quite a fun episode, and yeah, I think you'll quite enjoy this one.
Hmm.
It should be interesting. Alrighty, did you have anything else about this episode, Dave?
Hmm. No, I think on whole, I think there might have just been one last little part when Kolchak was discussing with Vincenzo about the ape story kind of going on. Not sure if it was the case of he was either following along with it or kind of leading Kolchak on a bit with it, but it kind of seemed like he was either following along with it or really wanted to follow the story. It might have been a case of I may have missed a line or two to really follow along with Vincenzo's idea of how this was panning out.
Yeah, I don't remember this scene, but that's interesting. I could kind of see Vincenzo being like, this could be something that, like, I could see him kind of going like, this sounds ridiculous, but could be real. So maybe we
Yeah,
should look into it.
especially in comparison to the other stories that Kolchak had been working on, and Vincenzo kind of had the correct response to "What the heck are you talking about, Kolchak?"
Yeah, but the idea of like there being like some undocumented like ape or something, it's like, well, that could be a thing. Maybe we should kind of look into this a little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So until next time, I've been Paul.
I've been Dave.